I'm here today for the Dallas Jewish Historical Society, and Ellen Lasser is going to take an oral history of Fred Reisberg. It's February 18th, 2001, and we're at his home on 6515 Prestonshire.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Fred?
I'm fine.
I'm going to ask you some questions about your life today and about all the contributions you've made to the Jewish community here in Dallas. But I'd like to start kind of at the beginning. So tell me about where you were born and when you were born and what it was like growing up here.
I was born in 1912 in a village in Poland. Now, a village in Poland is not like Highland Park village. A village is they used to call a dorf in Jewish, which is 99% farmers, Christian people. There was about 5 or 6 families of Jewish in that village. We considered ourselves farmers too, which I did do some farming.
What kind of farming?
Going behind a plow, you know.
Uh-huh.
The horses, we plow your ground with the horses.
And how old were you when you were doing that kind of work?
Well, I went to school for a little while. Unfortunately, I could not even finish high school because they needed me at home to help out down there. So, but I did go to high school for a few years. So, then I got home and I did all kind of work. I worked in the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I broke rocks on the street I needed to for the government, just to make a living.
What was the name of the village?
Dereniówka.
And where is that near?
It's a little town, very close, about 2.5 kilometers, which is not quite 2 miles even.
Mm-hmm.
Was Janov. Now, Janov, next to Trembovля, which is a larger city, where I went to high school. Now, the reason I say that, because there's several Janovs in Poland. There was about 5 different Janovs next to bigger cities. But this is close. You wrote a letter, he said Janov next to Trembovля. So they know what the letter went.
So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
The what?
How many brothers and sisters did you
no
have?
sisters. We were 4 brothers.
4 brothers. And out of those, now your oldest brother is Morris, is that correct? And he just had the bug to come to the United States, didn't he?
Well, we had an uncle in here, Maya Reisberg, that ran away way in the late 1800s. Ran away because he didn't want to serve in the army. So he sent papers to bring Morris in 1922, and his brother, Wolf Reisberg. So they came together in 1922.
Okay, so Wolf was your brother also?
No, Wolf is my uncle.
Your uncle, okay.
That's my,
And then Morris came, and then what made you decide to come over?
it's a long story on it. I didn't like Poland. I hated the anti-Semites. Of course, where we lived, there was Ukraine, and they just as bad, but there was under Poland, you know, it was like a suburb of Poland or whatever, you know, because Poland was divided so many times during years, you know, between Germany and Russia and Austria. So always wanted to leave Poland. And, if I couldn't go to the United States, I planned to go to Germany. I just didn't like Poland. So Morris, when he came here in 22, I think about 1937 or 36, he sent me some papers. And you could come in under the quota for this part of town, country, provided you have somebody to will provide for you, so you will not be a burden to the state side. And so I left in 38.
And you came to where?
I came straight
Dallas?
to Dallas. Well, I stopped in New York for a few days. See, my mother had a sister in New York living, and her mother, my grandmother, and 3 brothers. The whole family lived down there. And she always wanted to come to the United States, but Dad was a very stubborn man. I don't know what I'll take after him, I guess. So he didn't want to leave lousy Poland.
So they stayed, and did your other 2 brothers stay?
No. My brother Joseph, they were smuggling in people from Poland to the United States for X amount of money, just like they come in from Mexico. So he was one of those people. He wanted to go to the United States too, and they stopped. He was on a ship in Cherbourg, France, and they stopped down there. The people, and it was a transport, something like 600 people, and the same going to the United States. So the French government told them, if you feel like you want to go home, you're welcome to go back home. But if you want to remain in France, we welcome you to stay in France. So he decided to stay in France. But he was around 17 years old. Very little education. So he didn't have anybody, he didn't know the language. So he was sleeping in the homeless. He was sleeping but he had a talent. He liked to work with what would we call an ironsmith. He liked to work with that. He met a girl and got married when he was about 17 and a half or 18 years old. So then he went to work for himself,
And
to
some
make
of that French.
beds, make roll-away beds and children beds, one by himself. Worked himself out real good. Good enough to make a good living for himself, plus buying some real estate in Paris, France. Then he had 4 boys, no girls. He had 2 boys. Before he went to the French army, he was in World War II. And 2 boys when he came back. He was captured in the Maginot Line. You know what I'm talking about, Maginot Line? And he was sent to Yugoslavia as a prisoner of war by the Germans, working on a farm too. There was lots of people down there working, especially Ukraine, because we spoke Ukraine down there. And he never made any kind gesture that he understand what they were talking about it, because he didn't want to say that he's a Frenchman. He's nothing else but a Frenchman. And they never knew that he's a Jew. So he was lucky at it, and he came back, and we had 2 more kids on.
That's great. And that family that's in France recently visited you, didn't they?
That's my brother's son's children. That's my great
Just
niece.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So let's skip over, and now you've come to the United States and you're in Dallas, Texas. Now tell me about the love of your life. How did you meet her?
Well, that's a good thing. I like that. In 1938, when Hitler was already taken over Austria, and we heard that he's going to speak on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Well, we went to the shul, the Yano, because we didn't have in the village, we didn't have no Jewish shul, just like I said, about 2.5 kilometers. And instead of going to shul, we went out, a bunch of kids, went out to listen to him speak, bark like a dog, right? And we found out that he's going to march in on Czechoslovakia. And at the same time, Poland decided to march also to Czechoslovakia, and claiming a city was right on the border. The Czechoslovakia claimed the city belongs to them, and Poland claimed this as a Polish city. And while I was listening, it was around 9:30. I had an angel that came and just like tapped me under my shoulder and said, "Fred, you got to leave today on the second day of Rosh Hashanah." So I went into the shul. Mom was down there, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to leave today." She almost fell out of the chair, all right. And she said, "What do you mean you can leave? You got so much work to do, all right? You can leave, all right?" Because I had already all the papers. But I didn't plan to leave till about February or something, until we get everything down from field and take out the grain and so on. I went into Dad, and I told him the same thing. And he looked at me like I'm crazy. And I went home, probably around 11 o'clock. And we had some horses, and I had a guy who worked for us. And I told him, "Give me a couple of horses on my wagon ride." And I went to see my brother. He was married in a little town, about 12 kilometers. To tell him goodbye. And 4 o'clock, I was on the train. And although I'm not that religious and I'm not a believer in miracle, but it was a miracle. It was absolutely like somebody touched my shoulder and said, "You got to leave today." Well, I went to Warsaw, got my visa approved. And from Warsaw, we went by train. I went by train to port of embarkation in Poland, which the name was Gdynia. And on the way a girl standing and looking out the window and crying. It was pretty odd. So I walked over. I said, "What are you crying about?" Well, said I left a sister down there, left two brothers there, and a boyfriend. And so help me, I looked at her, talked to her a few minutes, I said, "I'm going to marry this girl." Well, she went to Toronto, Canada, to Canada with her mother. She was with her mother and her stepfather, because her stepfather had her kids living in Canada, right? So, and I went to Dallas. So we wrote to each other a few times. I called her a couple times. Couldn't call her too long because I didn't have much money. I came with $9 in my pocket, so I couldn't do much. But I did manage to go a couple times to see her. And then I was working for my brother Morris. He had a store.
What kind of store did he have?
He had ready to wear. He used to call it dry goods store.
And where was that?
Yeah.
Where was
on
the
Elm
store?
Street.
On Elm
Dallas.
Street?
Yeah. And then we start talking about a war. It's going to be a war, In 1941, in January, I volunteered for the Army. It was only about 2 years. And the reason I did that, and I kind of went to Maya, said, "You will be called, you sure, but when you're doing it now, you can pick your branch of service, which is not so dangerous, So I volunteered, right? And was assigned to 36th Infantry Division.
Something not so dangerous.
But I was lucky, you see, the infantry was a 111 Ordnance Company, which was taking care of the trucks and the guns for the division. So I was working in that 111 Ordnance Company. I got, let's see, what was I?
So Haddy's in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
And you're volunteering.
So about in 1941, like I said, I went to volunteer, and about October, on November was discharged because I was already over 26, and they wouldn't take people over 26, but they put me in the reserve. Then in December the 7th, we had Pearl Harbor. I had immediately a call. So and on the so I went back into my company, and stayed with my company, and I had already my basic before. Stayed there for a long time. And maneuvers and all things like that. Went to school, this and that. And it was funny, one time the captain calls me in and says, "We have an order for you to go to a spy school, to be dropped behind the lines where we were born." Well, I shivered hard. He said, "But it's a volunteer job, right? You don't have to go if you don't want to." I said, "Good, good." But then he said, "But if you wanted to, you can go to Officers Candidate School." So I thought about it. I said, "Okay, I'll go to Officers Candidate School." I didn't have too much chance, because I didn't have much education over there, and I had less than here. It was what they called 12 weeks wonder, and when you get through with it, you become a second lieutenant. And there was terms in those 12 weeks when you wash out if you don't do that. So the first one was 4 weeks, I didn't wash out. Second one was 7 weeks, I didn't wash out. The third one, the 10 weeks, and I washed out. Didn't make that. I had 2 more weeks to go. 2 more weeks. I had already a uniform made for me. So I washed out, and then I didn't go back to my company. Then I was a junkyard. They were sending me from one company to another company. We needed around there. And,
So when did you and Haddy get married?
There's another story. Right? We were stationed somewhere close to New York. I don't remember what. Captain calls me in too. It's another captain, another company. He said, "You got a furlough, 7 days furlough." I says, "Captain, sir, I didn't ask for a furlough, but you have one." So I knew already what is going on. So I got a train, and went to Canada. And talked to Haddy. I said, "Honey, I think I'll be shipping overseas, all right, because the captain gave me he gave the whole company 7 days furlough to go." He said, "I don't think we ought to get married," because we were talking about it before we should probably get married. "I don't think we should get married. I'm going to war, and I don't know how I'll come back. I might come out back without an arm or a leg, and what in the heck do you want with me, all right?" Well, she insisted, and I was very glad, of course, but so she said, "Yeah, okay, let's get married." Well, it was a time that you could not get married with Jewish religion. Something is a time between the holidays or something like that. You couldn't get married. So you go to a Reform rabbi, and he said, "Yeah, you're married." So we got married in 1943, August the 6th, and we had a big wedding. It was about, at least 8 people, all right? And 4 days later, I went back and went overseas for almost 2.5 years.
Oh, goodness.
I was spent almost 5 years in the army, but 2.5 years before we got married, and almost 2.5 years after we got married. After 4 days, went to the army.
So when you came back, you brought your bride to Dallas after the army?
After the army, see, I was hurt in the army, so it's a little. I was in a hospital in Belgium, and then I was transferred from the hospital to Paris, France, and the war was already over there. And by luck, my brother was released from prison or whatever, from farm down there. So we met in Paris in the hospital. And then I stayed there in the hospital a few days, and I shipped in the hospital train to, I believe it was Cherbourg. And from there we took a hospital ship. And from there we went to New York and took a train to Fort St. Houston, San Antonio, where I was discharged. But the thing was that, we were in a hospital on the train, and then we hear news that the United States dropped an atom bomb on Japan. Nobody knew what an atom bomb was, all right, But anyway, I stayed in San Antonio for a few weeks. and I was ready to leave on it. I signed all kind of papers. I said, I'm fine, I'm not hurting, I'm down there just to get away from it. Happened that a plane was going to New York from San Antonio, army place. I got a ride from there to the plane and took Haddy here. And that's the story, I guess.
Now, after you brought Haddy here, then were you still working for your brother then? Did you
Yeah, I
start
started
working
working
for him
for
again?
brother again, but at the time you couldn't get hardly an apartment. Because everything was just, he didn't build for several years. So a cousin of mine, Paul Fine, I stayed with him for about 2 weeks. Between my wife and myself, being a sergeant, I was getting a little bit more money overseas. Not only because of sergeant, but also you get for a certain length of time. You get a little bit more, and I think we're getting 20% for overseas duty. And Haddy was working, and we saved up around $6,000. That included, because I had a store already in here before I went to the Army. And Morris sold it because he had a store too. He was called into the Army.
Mm.
So he kept that money for me. Altogether we got $6,000. There became a house available in South Dallas. They need $2,500 down payment. So okay, I took out of the $6,000, $2,500 down payment, and started working for Morris. Morris paid me good, $125 a week. It was great already.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I was not the type of guy to work for somebody. Never liked to work for anybody. There was a liquor store available at next block, also on Elm Street. But you had to pay key money to get it, right? And then pay for his stock. So by the time I paid the key money, it was about also a little over $2,000. And for the inventory was over $1,000. I didn't have $500 left over. Not enough money to buy liquor. I had a guy down there working, and I said, let me know what's going on down there. You see, at that time you were getting allotments for good liquor. But you had to buy some junk liquor, something, cordials or something like that. So he mostly had cordials down there. And he came on a Saturday and he said, Fred, he's got a few cases of good liquor. He's selling it real quick, all right. So I tell Morris, in the middle of the day, on Saturday, he said, I'm going over down there, I'm going to take over this store right now, because before he sells the good stuff, I didn't know about liquor as much as I don't know what's on the moon now. And my sister-in-law was very angry with me leaving them in the middle of the Saturday, business. And I started doing business there. Right then, the afternoon, Saturday. Took the keys, paid them off. Then I ain't got no money to buy stock. So my brother signed for me $1,000, and my cousin, she signed for a couple $1,000 in another bank, and I was in business already. then we had already, during that time, we had already Judy. So Haddy took Judy, she was probably about a couple of years, a year and a half or something like that, went to see her mother in Canada. And liquor started getting plentiful, and couldn't make too much of it. So I opened a pawn shop. So help me, I didn't know from pawn shop, again, a thing, nothing, absolutely nothing. My guy came around to pawn a shotgun. I had a friend, my cousin, I grabbed the shotgun, I run over the next block. He said, he wants $10. I said, I don't know what it's worth it. It's worth $10. I run back and give him the $10. So I all learned on my own, you know. And
were you friends
but
with
then-
Oscar Ute?
no, I remember Oscar Ute, yeah, and
He
that
was
was my
in competition.
Yeah, well, at that time there was 40 pawn shops in the city of Dallas, and 99% were Jewish. Right on Elm Street, there was one after another, one after another. Today we have only one or two Jewish pawn shops. You know, mostly it's in Christian Gentile. Well, I didn't like too well pawn business. Somehow I didn't, and the liquor was no good. So I started in real estate. Worked in real estate for myself, and I had a partner, you know, we started building some houses. Here again, I didn't know nothing about building houses, or reading a plan, but I contribute all this to my wife, that she was my lucky star, all right. Without her, I probably wouldn't be worth anything, all right. So, went in liquor and give up the pawn shop and liquor, and I stayed with real estate. I'm still working on it. Now I'm working for my grandchildren, not for my daughter, my kid.
So let me ask you, when you came to Dallas
Yeah.
with Haddy, what was the Jewish community like then?
How big?
Did you belong to a synagogue then?
Oh yeah.
Right away? Which one did you belong to?
I belonged right away to Aguda Sachem. Used to be a Aguda Sachem on Forest Avenue. Now it's Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, it was about $12 a year.
To belong to the Shalom.
To belong to the Shalom.
And when did you start getting, I know you've done a lot of volunteer work. You want to tell us a little bit about some of the things you've done in volunteering?
Well, I had to give up. I had to give something back, you know, for my good fortune, for my good luck. I worked in several organizations. First, my path was B'nai Brit. Went through the chairs in B'nai Brit, was president, and was treasurer for about 12 years. I'm president now again for some reason. I don't know. And we had some good times in the B'nai Brit. We had some dinners, dances, and all things like that. We made money. Then I joined the Hebrew Philon.
And tell us about that.
I was in the Hebrew Philon. Also went through chairs, the president, and I was treasurer for 23 years. And it was very, very hard to get people to join. We had members, but not workers. And we had 450 members. workers at the time, the the dues were $3 a year. And by doing that, as a treasurer, every year you have to send them a statement once or twice. And every year when he pays you the $3, you have to send a membership card. All that's for the $3. Afterwards, we thought that we were going to have to disband our just now, so we had about $80,000, I think. So I says, we better put some money in the federation, $40,000, just in case we disband, because there used to be an organization, forgot the name of it, that supported the people that cannot pay for doctor bills or something like that. So the doctor bill, and they disbanded, and they divided the money between themselves, whatever they had left over. And I said, no, we're not going to divide our money on it. We're going to put it in the federation. In about what is it, honey? 9 years.
Yeah, 8 or 9 years.
9 years. We had meetings, and we said, well, we give the rest of it to the federation, let them worry about it. And somehow or another, I had somebody else with me who says, no, we're not going to do that. So I came up on an idea, I'll call some people, young people. Of course, I called my daughters, they couldn't refuse me. I don't know what they wanted to, but they could not refuse me. I called Alan Luderman, which is a hard worker now. He didn't refuse me. Called my cousins, Bruce and Marvin. So we got a little skeleton now. I got probably about 8, 9 people, something like that. Right? And they took over all the work.
So I'm not familiar with the Hebrew Free Loan Association. Tell us what it does.
The Hebrew Free Loan is it's an organization that we lend money to dire people that they need without any interest. We don't charge no interest. A person comes around, of course they have to sign a note, comes on and said, I need some medicine, and I haven't got the money. So we lend them some money. Of course, at the time before, I was a borrower myself. When I started, it was $25. That's what we borrowed. We up now to about $2,000, $2,500, and so we help hundreds and hundreds of people.
Are they all Jewish?
All Jewish. No Christians, all Jewish. We had at one time like 450 members, and we also had some dinners to raise a little bit of money, to have a little bit more money so we can lend out more money. And after the 23 years around there, those youngsters took over. My daughters are treasurers, and they have. I'm not doing anything, all right, but the office is in my place, for the last 9 years. Finally, they will move out pretty soon, all right. So and I'll tell you why. So, as a lady was born in Dallas, as far as I know, and she got married Methodist. She took on the, was it a Methodist?
I think so.
Yeah, was a Methodist. She took on the Methodist religion, because he was they were both geologists, and they made lots of money. About 81, she called me, and she asked me the same question, what is the Hebrew Philon doing? And I told her, we lend out money free, nobody's making it, everything's volunteer work, nobody makes any money, nothing like that. And she said, she's debating now with herself, if she wants to donate some, leave some money to the Hebrew Philon. She said her father was a borrower in Dallas from the Hebrew Philon, and gave me the telephone number. She called me a second time, maybe a year later. I never called her back, because the reason I didn't call her back is because I was ashamed to ask her, so are you still alive, all right? But about 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago, see, Linda remembers better than I do, but 3 years ago, when Luderman was already president, he's got a notice from the bank, from an attorney, they lived in Mexico, what city down?
Fort Worth.
Oh, no. Fort Worth is the cousin,
Oh, the cousin.
In a city in Mexico, her husband died, and the attorney said she passed on, and she left some good money to the Hebrew Philon. So we got one check. We got $600,000, and the next check we got about $123,000. So about $723. We may still get another $20,000-$30,000. So right now we staying good. We got about almost $1 million to lend to people. The worker now, I don't work much at all. The worker now to try to help other people with a little more money, maybe scholarships or something like that.
Now, I see up here on the mantle there's a very special award that you won. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I received that award. There was 2 awards at the same time. One, Florence Shapiro, and myself. This is, they picked somebody that, I don't know why they picked me, but they picked somebody that's doing a little bit good for the city, the community. So,
I'm off.
You can keep talking.
Keep talking, please.
So this is the Justice Louis Brandeis Award, and it was given to you by the ZOA, right? Zionist Organization of America.
Yeah.
So that's really very nice.
Okay. What else do you know?
I want to know about the Torah, why you decided to give a Torah to Fared Israel.
That's my 3rd Torah.
Oh, okay.
I gave 1 Torah in Denver, a shul. I gave a 2nd Torah in Oav Shalom, Rabbi Roden. And this is my 3rd Torah. But fortunately, I don't know what it is, I got a 4th Torah coming in now.
A 4th Torah?
Yeah.
And who are you giving that one to?
I don't know yet. No, again, I say, I was lucky. I had a beautiful wife, a lovely wife, better than anything a person can ask. I had good kids. I love my kids. I think they love me too. I don't know. I'm not sure.
They love you.
But so you got to do something, all right. In my opinion, all right. Not big. I'm not that rich, all right, but do a little bit, all right. So that's the Torah. We're going to have dedication. Was supposed to be in May. They postponed it. They started too late. You know, they couldn't make. They tried to make some money out of that. You know, so it's going to be in Hanukkah.
Good.
Yeah, and a Sunday. I don't know whether the first Sunday or the second, the last Sunday. All right, the 9th or the 16th.
That's great.
So I enjoy that. They read out of my Torah over here, so I look at it. It's theirs, but I'm looking at it. They have to look at it.
And how long have you been a member of the Jewish Community Center?
Oh gosh, that I don't know. I'm quite a long time.
Since the beginning?
Not too much in the beginning. No. You know, I was a workaholic. I worked like more than one person can. I worked like a mule. Of course, Haddy helped me when I had the store. You know, Haddy helped me very much. But I kept working on it. Didn't have too much time, but I did spend some time. You know, my pet. I had a few pets. It was what is it?
I'm not reading your mind this time.
Was the mother sick? Was sick.
Parkinson's?
Parkinson. You know, Haddy was sick. She started getting sick when she was around 44 or 45 years old. And she had that until she passed on at 79. But
At 79. Mom was 79, yeah.
Parkinson started becoming known, you know. First, people that tried to hide it all right, but started. So, was 10 people of us. We organized Parkinson Society in Dallas. And I'm a charter member. Yeah. I worked pretty hard there because I can't especially about Haddy. I was chairman of the membership, was president, chairman of the board. So I'm still supporting it. I don't go to meetings. I'm still supporting them every year. Lots of things was going on, you know, when we worked, and we had lots of garage sales, you know, picking up, and I had a truck they sent me to Oak Cliff. Somebody wants to donate some furniture or something like that. This fool, you know, I had to go down there, pick it up, and all things like that. But it was pleasant to do that. I felt, I don't know, I felt obligated to do those things. I didn't do it for recognition, you know. I just was proud to do it when I could do it. There was little time to spend on it. The rest of that to work. I had to send through my girls to college and make weddings. So you know, well, you know what a wedding will cost, but that didn't cost that much, all right. You know, this one here, in the back of you, was the smartest, all right. She said, "Dad, how much you spent on Judith's wedding?" At that time, I believe something like $6,000. She said, okay, give me the $6,000. We're just not going to have a wedding. We're just going to have a dinner and the rabbi and so on. So I gave her $6,000, you know. What did you do? You went on a trip.
I spent every penny, I'm sure.
She went on a trip. And before the trip was over, I got a call. Daddy, I haven't got any more money on. I said, you said you won only $6,000.
He's bringing up stuff 30 years old.
I should have left her down there, you know. Go ahead.
Well, but they had told me you did Meals on Wheels and you donated land to, you know, for the black property in South Dallas.
We had, I bought one time way deep in South Dallas. It was almost a whole block on both sides. It was 2 or 3 small houses, like you used to call them shotgun houses, you know, in black area. And there was a church not far down there, and the church almost came apart. All right. Someone or other they found out. I don't know how they did. They said they need a place to build a church. And I didn't care much for that land. There was too much trouble. I didn't think I could make any money to build anything on it way down there. So we had I sold 2 houses, and there was about 8 or 10 lots left over. About 10 lots, I believe. And they built a nice little church down there. Didn't name it after me, but it's a church.
The Reisberg Church.
I love it.
I had one lot. I used to buy lots from the government, you know, with the foreclosed, you know, and throw down the houses, FHA. There's also a church across the street, and I had a vacant lot down there. And they too it came from, you know, we need a parking lot. We haven't got no parking. We'll come there, got no parking. So I gave them the lot, all right. So I have a church in
Parking. Well, Fred, we appreciate your reminiscing and telling us about your life for the Historical Society, and I know you're very proud of your 3 daughters. We love you very much, and we're just very grateful for the immense contribution you've given to the city of Dallas.
I had a falling out with, I'll end this up with you, falling out with Akiva Academy. I wanted to give a name for Haddy. So I talked to the Akiva Academy, and I says, what does a room cost? At that time, $10,000. So I says, tell what they'll do. I have a house in Pleasant Grove that I paid something like $7,000 or $8,000. And I got 2 or 3 lots left over about from the Federal Housing Administration. You look it over. You appraise it. And if you think it's worth $10,000, I'll give it to you. You just have a room in my Haddy's name. Well, they got it. I wrote it over to them. They never put a flag on it. So I said, okay, you want to do that, but we talked sometime. One time we talked with my granddaughter, you know, Judy's daughter, and she's an attorney, and she said, she's going to take care of that. So she wrote him a letter, all right. I had a copy what they signed, the president, you know, what they're going to do for it. And after 2 or 3 months, they called her, they put a plaque down there. Then a new president came in, and he wants to find out what happened to her. And I told him the story about it. I says, there's supposed to be a plaque down there. I didn't go see it. He's the president. He says, no, there's no plaque. They were lying to you. I says, okay, well, there's no plaque, I don't care. But what did you come for here? Well, they want a donation. So, Shmoitafuni, you know what I heard about Shmoitafuni? No, a fool, all right. I gave him a little money. And after that, he called me. He said, "Yeah, now I'll see that they put a flag on."
That's a great story.
When I got married,
Okay.
in August 6, 1943.
Good.
That's my mother that Hitler took care of. And my father that Hitler took care, and my brother Hitler took care.
Tell us who we are. Tell her who we are.
Oh. This is my oldest daughter, Judy. That's my middle one. I love them both dearly. Linda.
Right.
I got one more in San Antonio, Marcia. That was the baby one. Because it was the tomboy, all right, you know. Whenever they got in trouble in school, Marcia took care of it.